NAR, the National Association of Realtors, is being sued. First round, they lost. What the lawsuit is about and what they're asking for, what I think they're really going after, and what it could look like in 10 years if this law actually changes. One of the big points in this lawsuit is broker fee. They're bringing up an issue. The sellers are paying the buyer's agent's fee, and they're not happy about that. So after a few weeks of the trial, the jury awarded $1.8 billion to about 500,000 the home sellers in Missouri against National Association of Realtors, along with real estate firms like Keller Williams Realty and Home Services of America. In the current rule, when seller pays the seller's agent, the seller's agent pays portion of that fee that they got from the seller's proceed and share with the buyer's agent, saying, thank you for bringing the buyers and making the transaction successful. So it's a co-op system. The plaintiffs are arguing that there's like a certain set fee. It's very strangely same fee all across the board, which is against antitrust law. That's their claim. They're calling it the commission system amounts to collusion. The lead plaintiff's attorney in the Missouri case told Bloomberg. So NAR and big brokerages, the defendants in this case, said that they're going to appeal the decision. So we have a long way to go to actually see a law changing. However, when a suit like this happens, I think in my opinion, some things will just naturally change no matter the outcome of the suit. So I could see some local associations adopting certain rules, making closer to what the plaintiffs are asking. And the way it's going, it looks like they're trying to make paying buyer's agent's fee illegal. Now, what's missing here is that the buyer's point of view. I would be really curious to know what those buyers thought, whether the homes that they bought in this time and in this state, whether the buyers thought that it was unfair to pay their buyer's agent from the seller's proceed or not. I mean, there's so many things that buyer's agents bring to the table. Finding a home is pretty easy. Nowadays, me as a buyer's agent, my buyers actually find the homes that gets listed in the morning and they ask me in the afternoon. I tell them pros and cons of the property. That's where my buyer's agent value is, by saving their time, my buyer's time. Nowadays, buyers see before I see it, because they're looking at the micro market every moment. I'm looking at a bunch of the other markets, so I don't get to really see the micro market listing activities that often. Finding a listing, giving it to the buyers, that's like the least value proposition that buyer's agents can make. And that's not where I make money. I make money by buyer's agent by providing that more of insightful information to the buyers, ultimately saving time and money. If this lawsuit is won by the plaintiffs all across the board, all across the country, and Supreme Court says, yes, buyer's agents are prohibited now, and you cannot share the commission with the buyer's agent, let's say if that becomes a law, what I think will happen in 10 or 20 years down the road, bunch of buyers are going to sue the sellers and seller's agent by saying that they inflated the price, we overpaid, we didn't know about the buyer's rights and the buying process. We got the short end of the stick, so we're going to sue you. And I could see that class action coming up in 20 years. Because this current lawsuit is very, very seller-centric lawsuit. This is all just looking at the seller's protection. For example, in Oregon contract, when a seller signs a listing agreement, they see, let's say out of 5 or 6% of the commission, like half or some slightly smaller than half will go to the buyer's agent. So seller knows that, so there's no secret to it. But what the plaintiffs are saying is that set fee is where the collusion happened, meaning that the agents drove that price at certain level. And I think that's the main key point. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'm not quite sure. I believe it's a market-driven approach. What I mean by that is seller's agents represent the sellers, buyer's agents represent the buyers. Seller wants more money, buyer wants to pay less. And that's where you need to negotiate. If you meet in the middle ground, you get a deal. If you don't get a deal, right? And so it's kind of like going to a court and arguing about a certain lawsuit. When it settles or when it gets awarded or it's some kind of judgment or whatever, that's the settlement. That's the transaction. And so that's where the seller's agent work hard for the seller, the buyer's agent work hard for the buyer. And that's what's been going on. But all of a sudden saying that it's so unfair to the seller because seller had to pay all of this and they didn't have the control. It doesn't make a lot of sense because most sellers knew what they're paying for, if not all. So the sellers could have just sold as a for sale by owners and not hired the listing agents and or not offer high BAC, buyer's agent's commission, to the buyer's agent by offering what the seller thought it was a reasonable fee. And some sellers negotiate the fees with the listing agents when they sign the listing agreement. Once that agreement is signed in Oregon contract, it actually shows how much is going to the BAC, the buyer's agent's commission. The listing agents understand the importance of working with the good buyer's agents and how much work that the buyer's agents bring to the table. So they're happy to share that compensation with the buyer's agents. And good fiduciary agents really fight for their clients. And many times, negotiations are done in very good competing environment. And I believe this jury's decision breaks that healthy negotiation environment for the sellers and buyers, in my opinion. But I'm going to come back to that fast forward 10 years from now with this new law, buyer's agents are prohibited, sharing commission is prohibited. That means buyers will have to buy without a buyer's agent, or the buyers have to pay their own buyer's agent's representation. And the reality is, typically buyers are very short on cash. You're going to ask buyers to pay their own representation, let's say 2%, 2.5%, 3%, no matter what that might be, 1%, I don't care. Do they have the money to pay for it? The first question. And at that point, the lending rule needs to change so that the buyers have the option to put that buyer's agent's commission that they have to pay out of their pocket, put into the loan. But the current system, that's illegal. They're considering that as a kickback. So the loan process wouldn't allow buyer to pay the buyer's agent directly. That's a very big no-no. So at this point, the question is, in 10 years, me as a realtor, I know a lot about real estate industry. If I'm buying a property in, let's say, Miami Beach in Florida, because I want to get a lot more sun and enjoy the beach, I want to buy a property there. Would I hire a buyer's agent in the future system? My answer will be yes, as long as I can put the buyer's agent's cost into my loan. Because I believe that my buyer's agent, who I'm going to hire, is going to save me more than 2%, 2.5%, 3%, 4%, whatever that at the going rate buyer's commission would be. Because they're going to know a lot more about the specific market home value, what neighborhood is a good neighborhood, not so good neighborhood, what kind of repairs are normal, and what kind of cost is associated with repairs. They're going to know the market condition. If they see a room where they can negotiate the price down, they're going to work for me. They will protect me because they know the local rules that well. Because I know Oregon rules, but I don't know anything about Florida rules. I don't know anything about property disclosure rules. I don't know anything about the inspection negotiation period, what kind of rights that the buyers have, or what kind of earnest money that I have to put down, the escrow process, all these things that buyers could make a mistake on. My buyer's agent is going to protect me from it. That's why I do believe in buyer's agents' work. One thing I have to point out here is that I don't agree with membership with the NAR, the National Association of Realtors, is voluntary. In practical sense, if I don't join NAR and PMAR and Oregon Realtors, I don't get the local MLS access. That means I can't really do my job as a realtor here. So it's like it is voluntary, but if you're voluntary and opt out, you can do your work. So is it really voluntary? I don't think so. So that's something I don't agree with NAR's position on that. But when it comes to consumer protection, I do agree with NAR and the brokerage's point of view because the current system is to protect the sellers and the buyers, not just the sellers. What the plaintiffs are bringing is just to protect the sellers. But the thing is, in 2020, when a lot of homes were getting multiple offers, whoever brought that buyer, the buyer's agent, they got, let's say, 3% or 2.5% or 2% or 1%. If they didn't bring those buyers, I don't think the sellers would have gotten that high of a price. So sellers not happy that they got multiple offers and got 20% over asking price. So are they not happy paying that 2% because since they made 20% over asking price? I don't get that concept. So that's where the plaintiffs are conflicting what they're saying. Artificially inflated the home price, so we need to award sellers who already made 20% extra. It doesn't make any sense. They're happy that made it 20% more, but because they had to pay the 2%, 3% to the buyer's agent, they need to collect that back. And one other claim that plaintiffs are bringing that I don't fully agree is that the fees are uniformly the same. In my opinion, in certain prices, maybe that's the case. But when you have like multi-million-dollar homes, you're not going to see the same kind of commission. They tend to come down because they understand that the price is so high, the buyer's agents can get paid less. And that's what's decided by the sellers and seller's agent. In that sense, I've seen commission anywhere between a few $1,000s. I think I've seen like $2,000, a set fee set by the listing broker. I've seen 1.5% on like $2 million home. I've seen 2% on $2 million home. I've seen 2% on $500,000 home. I've seen 2.25% on other listings nowadays, a lot more. I've seen 2.7%, I've seen 3%, I've seen 3.5%. So that argument of plaintiffs saying that like uniform commission rate, it's hard to agree on that one. One other argument that I get like squints my eyes a lot is that when you offer more buyer's agent commission, more agent will show that property. That is not true. Because let's say one home is like 3.5%, the other home is like 2% buyer's agent's commission. Would I just show this one and not this one? No, I will show both if I have option. But a lot of times nowadays, because of my buyer's agent's knowledge, I filter those out when the buyers ask me about these two properties. And I say, well, this one has this pros and cons. This house has this pros and cons, and have the buyers decide which one they want to see. So do me as an agent, dictate which one that the buyers? No, I don't. Buyers decide which one they want to see based on the feedback that I give them. Do I give more favorable feedback because of that fee is higher? No, not really. Coming back to if the buyers have to pay their buyer's agent's fee, buyers will have less money to offer to the seller, or they may not be able to buy that property because they don't have that money, which naturally reduces the buying power. Just like the high interest rate, when the buyers have less buying power, they're going to make less offers. That means the demand will go down. That means property values will go down a bit too. That means sellers make less money. Sellers get less offers. If this law went through and become legal, there's some chance that the price will actually come down. And that means the sellers will make less money. So if the sellers are happy with that, so be it, I guess. I know buyers are going to be happy with that, actually. If the price comes down, right now, the price is so high, some buyers can't even afford it. So some buyers will be happy. I guess you can make everybody happy. For the buyer's representation, if that goes away, it really cripples buyers' buying ability, in my opinion. Buyers will have to educate themselves so much so that they don't get short end of the stick. So it's kind of like telling a plaintiff who is going to the court, saying that you are not allowed to bring your own buyer's agent. If you do, you got to pay your own. I guess that is the current system, but if the plaintiffs win, meaning transaction is successful, typically, as far as I know, the legal system, the defendant may have to cover the plaintiff's legal fee. That's my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But that is kind of similar to a successful real estate transaction. The winning party, in this case, the seller who's making the money, paying the cost to the buyer's agent. Kind of similar to it. It's not exact, but it's very similar to it. What if the system doesn't allow that? The buyers will have to bring in their attorney because they can defend themselves, but then they can afford that. But then they're not going to even bring the suit to the court. Then there's no settlement, no suit, no transaction. So who really wins here? I would love to see the buyers from this buyer pool, this transaction pool, come to the court and testify their experience, saying that, the questions would be, without your buyer's agent, do you think you would have gotten that house? Would you have bought that home without your buyer's agent? Do you think the buyer's agent saved you money by representing you in this transaction? You beat 20 other offers. Do you think that would have happened without your buyer's agent? Are you happy with the home that you bought with your buyer's agent? And so those are the questions that I want to hear in the court from the buyer's point of view, because that, I think, will demonstrate the buyer's agent's representation was important to many of the buyers, because as far as I know, my buyers are pretty happy in the past that I provided enough valuable information, service, all these things so that they could successfully buy that property at a pretty reasonable price. And I might say, as a broker, I'm pretty proud of saving my buyers money when they buy, because I would do the comparable home sale, the history search, so that I can find the fair market value, not just rely on like Zillow's estimate. Try to find out more about the seller situation so I can maybe find some negotiation room for my buyers, and then I can help with repair negotiation. I know how much things generally cost, so I can negotiate that on behalf of buyers. I mean, there's so many things that I'm pretty confident that many of the transactions, I save my buyers more than that fee that I get paid for. In a sense, that's where sellers should be unhappy, because me as a buyer's agent actually gave them lesser deal, but I did bring the buyer, right? On the flip side, I guess, if they cut out the buyer's agent like myself, sellers will actually make more money. Not just because of not paying the buyer's agent commission, but the work that I bring to protect the buyer, if that goes away, that translates into seller's proceeds. So I guess sellers can win-win and buyer can lose-lose. That argument, I can accept that. To boil this down, you need protection for sellers and the buyers. And this lawsuit, these plaintiffs are just completely ignoring buyers' protection, which makes me wonder if this is just a strategy that the big tech companies are deploying to shake things up in favor of their own tech work. If the representation protections go away, at least one side, that's where they can come in and make money in the meantime. I could see that more than anything. So does this really protect more people? Here's FTC.gov's antitrust law explained. It says, yet for another 100 years, the antitrust laws have had the same basic objective: to protect the process of competition for the benefit of consumers, making sure there are strong incentives for businesses to operate efficiently, keep prices down, and keep quality up. The only thing that is not going so well is keeping the prices down. But in my opinion, the current system does protect the process of competition for the benefit of the consumer. I think there's strong incentives for businesses to operate efficiently. Keep prices down, that doesn't happen right now because of inflation and the competition and lack of housing supply and high demand. But we do keep quality up, in my opinion. So the question is now, are they going to go after the attorneys, the hourly rate? Or are they going to also go after like a handyman's minimum hourly rate or painter's hourly rate? To be seen. In my opinion, the answer is no. Thanks for watching, and this is basically a short summary of what's going on with my own twists and thoughts and opinions. I am biased, like I said, because I'm a licensed agent selling for about 15 years. If you have any thoughts or questions, please leave it in the comment and subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed it. And I'll see you next time.